Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the How to Man podcast. My name is Austin Dworsk, and we are going to today talk about video games. I originally had a few other ideas in mind to make a podcast about, but I realized I needed to do a lot more research. One of them, I was planning on doing a episode on how to master your shadow self. That one is going to be a very important one. I really want to make that one. But I need to do a lot more research on the concepts of the Jungian shadow. It's a really weird name. Carl Jung, the psychologist who studied under, I want to say Nietzsche, I think. But anyway, it's been a while. And then I had another one. I watched What If Autist make a video discussing death, and I thought that that would actually be a very good topic to discuss because he had some very interesting ideas, and I kind of wanted to offer my 2 cents on those ideas, as well as, maybe reach some other people since, everybody develops their own audience and not everybody shares the same audiences. And this... Oh, God damn it. Surprise phone call in the middle of my podcast. Going to have to delete a good chunk. What was I saying? I was thinking about making a video talking about what if, or talking about a similar topic that What If Autist discussed on how death is actually a very useful thing to have in reality, and that it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing that that we don't stay on Earth forever. That we actually have a bit of a time limit. It allows for a little bit of a kind of a deadline for when you should kind of try to get things that you want to get done. But yeah, both of those topics are topics that I need to do a lot of research on. I have some other topics in the works. Trying to be a better man does not run short of things to talk about, which is useful for me, but it makes it difficult to choose. That being said, with my procrastination and playing Bloodborne, realizing that I still needed to get an episode done, I began to think about it, and I was like, Bloodborne actually has quite a few good things that you can pull from it. It's not just limited to this time-wasting action RPG gameplay. It actually has a few things in it that I think could be useful, and I think that you should be playing Bloodborne or Dark Souls, any of those types of games, as they might be a way for you to actually work on yourself and make yourself better. And I'll explain how. So, for those of you that don't know, we're going to make this topic almost exclusively about Bloodborne because I have not played enough Dark Souls. Played a little bit of Dark Souls 3 at one point, but I got rid of it just because, again, same issue that I had with Bloodborne. Very difficult games, and at the time, it was not something that I was super interested in. Kind of got Dark Souls because, it was what all my friends were playing, and everybody thought it was everybody was really excited about it, but I did not immediately fall in love with it. I'm kind of warming up to that style of game now, and as I'm playing Bloodborne, I'm thinking, Dark Souls would be fun to play as well. But, so yeah, this is going to be almost exclusively about Bloodborne because that is the one that I have the most experience with. But these types of games have various elements to them that allow you to practice working on certain elements that are very useful in real life. So, for those of you that don't know Bloodborne, it is a From Software game that utilizes very specific mechanics. It's an action horror RPG, where the mechanics are save points are very few and spread out, and every time you make kills of enemies, you gain XP points. In Bloodborne, they're called Blood Echoes, and that's also your currency to purchase items and to level up your character. However, every time you die, you lose all of them. That being said, they're still available. They're basically like sitting in the world, or they're being carried by the monster that killed you. And then every time you die or you come back into one of the main worlds to actually, run around and explore, all of the monsters respawn back to where they were. And you have to work your way back to where you last died in order to get your blood echoes back. In Dark Souls, they're literally souls, but it's the same concept. If you die, your points get lost in the world. You have to go find them again. If you die a second time, then those points are lost. So if you manage to accrue 10,000 points in the game, and then all of a sudden you died to a boss, you have to actually beat that boss now in order to get those 10,000 back. Otherwise, they're lost the next time you die, and then the points that you accumulated to get back to the boss are now the points that are lost in the world. It really, really punishes you for failure, and it is brutal. Starting from the lowest level, everything is more than capable of one-shotting you. As you level up, you're able to take more hits from weaker enemies, but as you go through the world, the enemies kind of scale up the further away from the starting area that you're at. Even the enemies in the starting area, when you are much further down the line with your points, or with your levels, and you're much more stronger and much more skilled, if you screw up, you can still get basically taken out by like some of the weakest enemies. It is a feature, not a bug. So, I actually think that because of the way that this game is set up, it's incredibly useful to help build out some concepts, kind of lay the groundwork for some various ideas, as well as a way to kind of allow you to practice dealing with complex and difficult ideas, and make yourself better in the real world. So the main areas that I think that this really, really helps out with is learning how to experience stress and handle potentially traumatic scenarios, as well as overcoming impossible odds. And then because Bloodborne is a horror-based game, all of the Souls games are, I would argue, mostly towards the horror side, less of the fantasy side. It allows you to actually face your fears, and make yourself stronger. So we're going to go ahead and talk about kind of the most obvious part of this first, which is the fears thing. Like I said, Bloodborne, it's mostly horror themed. You are a hunter that is hunting these basically mutated monsters that are ransacking the city. It's known as the Night of the Hunt. Apparently this happens often. And it seems like it's being spread by a type of pestilence. Most of the people are basically being turned into werewolves or werewolf-like beasts. And then various, animals and stuff like that are being corrupted. But then you also have like a ton of other different creatures that are not quite the same and whatnot. Like I said, I haven't gotten that far into it. Each time I've played, I've gotten further, and I'm hoping to kind of get more of the world's lore and whatnot, because it is a very fascinating game. The world is very well thought out, and I love the fact that From Software, with these Souls-like games, the entire story and lore is actually delivered to you in item descriptions. So actually taking a second to look at the item and see its description can actually give you more insight about what's going on, which is a lot of fun. But with this world, you are facing these dark areas, and the amount of gore is insane. Firstly, the game utilizes its setting really, really well. It's gothic horror setup, a lot of big cathedral-like buildings, a lot of sharp points. You're running around castle grounds, really narrow alleys, and the lighting is like almost non-existent. Everything is in these tinges of blue and gray. with splashes of, red and yellow and oranges from firelights or from like the sunrise and stuff. But it's very unsettling. It looks like a strange world, and you immediately feel like the world you're in is unsafe. It almost looks post-apocalyptic, and most people are shut indoors, waiting for kind of the scourge to pass through. Just to try to make it to the next day, with all these different monsters and stuff just running around. Then you have the music, or generally speaking, the lack thereof. There's almost no music in the game until you get to boss fights. The sound design is amazing. You hear coughing, you hear manic laughter, you hear people just kind of whispering to themselves. When you have headphones on, you really get the whole, like sensory overload with like just the quietest noises that just in the distance you're not sure if they're friend or foe, if they're threatening or not, which is a lot of fun. And then when you do get into the boss fights, immediately your stress levels spike as the music starts coming in. It is intense. It is almost oppressive in a sense. And you feel like you are getting ready for a fight of your life, despite the fact that, it's a video game. The music score is gorgeous. That being said, all of these are to heighten the uneasiness. And as you play through it, of course, you eventually get used to it. So, it stops feeling like it's a terrifying world, and it becomes more of just this is the way it is. It's a hedonistic adaptation. I like to make fun of my wife and call it heathenistic adaptation because she yells at me when I pronounce things wrong. But yeah, hedonistic adaptation, the more exposure you get to it, the more used to it you are. And in order to get the same feeling, you kind of have to push the limit on it. So anyway, and then we get to the monsters. And now these monsters are very, very well made. The artwork for them is really well done. And it focuses a lot more on the uncanniness of them, because a lot of these people, when they get turned into these monsters, their limbs start to lengthen and their body starts to kind of elongate in weird ways. They're extremely tall. And it creates this like uncanny, like it looks like it's human, but it's not. And because it looks vaguely human, there's like a man-eating boar that's like a giant fucking pig that has these boils on it and stuff. You have giant rats and giant ravens that are mutated. The ravens slither around on the ground and then they fly up when they attack you. It's really, really disturbing, kind of imagery. It really plays on that whole corruption of the known, taking things that you know well and just immediately, twisting it to make it feel unknown, which then kind of puts you on edge. And then you have the alien. They have a creature that looks like a mind flare and stuff. They have creatures that basically are oozes. You have giants. The monsters themselves kind of can range from a variety of things. One of the major monsters is like just a collection of eyes. That's all it is, and then it spits at you, kind of thing. So it's very, very well done in creating this horror atmosphere. And the whole entire concept of the game is, in order to progress, you have to willingly walk towards these horrors and the dangers that exist within the game. And it allows you to actually put yourself in a situation where you have to willingly accept your fear and push through it. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to do anything similar to how a psychologist might help you get over a fear or get over a trauma thing. And I'm definitely not saying that this is a way for you to experience trauma in a similar way that, somebody who was, in war, was a victim of abuse, survived a natural disaster, or anything like that. It is nowhere near the same. It's like 90% or 99.999% muted in comparison. But your brain has a hard time telling the difference between reality and a simulation. You logically can tell the difference, but your brain does not. Your subconscious will treat both of them almost equally, generally because it's safer to do so. If you allow your logic to override and say that something's not dangerous when it actually is, you can get yourself killed. It is better to assume that it is dangerous when it actually isn't. Your brain very much likes to operate under the safe than sorry kind of thought process. Always be more cautious than needed. But that being said, it makes it easy to trick into thinking that something is real. It's the reason why when you're watching a movie, and you kind of feel yourself getting emotionally attached to characters. If you watch Saving Private Ryan and you cry at the end, like I do every single fucking time, like a little bitch, that's because your brain actually went ahead and believed all of the events that happened in that movie is real. Saving Private Ryan is based on real events, but it is technically a fictional story. And then you have, or in horror movies, when there's a jump scare and you literally jumped out of your way, or, jumped out of your seat, or even screamed a little bit, that was your brain realizing that this thing on screen in no way can hurt you. It's literally just images. Your brain didn't think that, though. Your brain thought, oh, this is going to kill me. So you jump back. Both of these are kind of ways that, art can manipulate that. And you can take advantage of that by allowing yourself to have the experience of taking on these monsters and stuff like that. And with video games, it's even more connected than in movies, because in order for the story to progress, you actually have to control the character. And your brain begins to associate the character as you. So you stop feeling like, oh, it's on a screen. You start feeling like you're actually there. And you have to willingly go towards these monsters, giant spiders, eye things, these werewolves and stuff like that. And they are genuinely terrifying, both in their visual representations as well as in you trying to defeat them. Even at higher levels, low-level monsters that you should be able to one-shot, if you are not paying attention to what you're doing, can still take you out, and take you out relatively quickly. Basically, you have to be extremely high levels in order for the low-level monsters to not be an issue. Which is actually... It's more of a nuisance now where I'm at in the game. I'm now at level 26. I'm getting ready to go into the healing church, and I basically mastered the first level, or the first section, Central Yarnum, I believe it is. But even then, when I go into Central Yarnum to grind a little bit more, just to kind of get more of the points that I need to level up my character, or to buy some new items and stuff, I still end up getting taken out, randomly. I know almost all the timing for all the monsters in the first area, so that way I can avoid getting hit. And literally, you make one mistake and you just get completely taken out. And it's annoying, but in a good way. It's good game design. And allowing yourself to take on these challenges makes you stronger. Suddenly, well, not suddenly, but to a small extent, things that would make you scared in real life don't seem as scary. It's not because they're not any more or any less scary than they would have been before you started playing Bloodborne or Dark Souls or anything like that. It's that you've become stronger, and you can now say, well, I went ahead and faced the Father Garnum. No, not Garnum. Father Giscoy, I think it's how it's pronounced. He's the first main boss that you fight. You think, well, I fought him, so I think I can take on, this other thing. And it associates to different things. I fought this boss in this game, and it was really, really hard. You know what? This phone interview doesn't seem so bad anymore. It's those kind of things that just kind of, tweaks your mentality a little bit, and makes you just a little bit stronger, making it easier for you to take on bigger challenges. So that's something that I enjoy. It also helps you with, when you experience a traumatic thing, your brain can then go back to the video game and be like, well, it's very similar to this situation in this video game. This is how I handled it in the video game. Maybe I can take that as a way to reinforce the idea that this challenge that I've been put into, this car accident that I got into, maybe it's not going to be as bad. I can find a way out of it because I was able to find a way in this traumatic scenario in the video game. I know for a lot of people that's going to seem, very naive and stupid. When I was telling people that I'd basically taught myself how to drive playing racing games, everybody was like, well, driving in real life is not like a racing game. As somebody who has played a lot of racing games and even got myself a racing rig so that way I can simulate it more realistically with a steering wheel and pedals, yes, playing video games, playing a racing game does actually make you a better driver. Getting your eye in, knowing the braking points and stuff like that genuinely helps. So this whole idea that you can't simulate things in a video game, or that simulating things in a video game is childish and, really you should just go out there and get the experience. No, that's not true. You can play video games and you can get real life experience out of it. Again, it's heavily muted. It is the difference between, say, like a vibrant, bright blue that, is the ocean blue kind of thing, and then like a white wall that has a vague tint of blue. You look at the white wall with a vague tint of blue on its own, and yeah, you can be like, oh yeah, it's a blue wall. But then you put it right next to the darker, more vibrant blue, and immediately go, oh no, that's a white wall, because it's not the same. But it's close. And you can use that to just kind of build up. It just can kind of help plant the seeds to help make you stronger, which is something that I really enjoy. And one of the reasons why I think that Bloodborne and these Souls games can be incredibly useful. The next aspect is with dealing with, what was it? So that was fears and traumatic experiences. The next part is stress management. There are a lot of times where I'm playing this game and immediately my blood pressure spikes and I start sweating and I'm, dealing with a lot of stress. And it's not because I'm scared, it's because I'm suddenly dealing with 5 enemies at once. And Bloodborne is very good with kind of teaching you, or not teaching you, but kind of allowing you to put yourself in a stressful situation and helping you develop stress management processes in your brain. When you're dealing with a lot of complex variables in the game mechanics are relatively simple, but there are always different things that you have to take into account. And dealing with one enemy is stressful enough because you're having to bounce around to avoid getting hit. There's not really too many ways you can block. There's a shield that you can get, but I'm not good at using the shield. I'd rather use the pistol to create counterattacks, because you can use the pistol to do interrupt attacks and stuff like that. And I prefer to do that method because you usually get more damage out of it. But you have to time it right. And if you don't time it right, you can actually set yourself up to immediately get killed. Because if it doesn't do the interrupt, then the attack follows through and you usually don't have enough time to dodge. It's either dodge or shoot kind of thing. But yeah, dealing with one enemy is stressful enough on its own, and then the moment you add in a second enemy, well, now you have to dodge 2 things that are attacking you, and they're not always attacking you at the exact same time or at predictable intervals. So you have to pay even more attention to your surroundings and where you're dodging into. You can fall off of areas. There's one area where you have to fight another hunter, and it's on the roof, and literally if you dodge too quickly or too far in through the edge, you can just fall off and die immediately, which is always frustrating. I still have yet to beat that guy. But one of the most stressful parts that I had was I was trying to lure just a couple monsters away in a lower level area, just grinding through, trying to build up stuff, and I accidentally got basically the entire horde. and I had to dodge a lot because I had 5 enemies on me. And like I said, one enemy, even at low level, or even low level enemies, are enough to kill you, or kill me, I guess I should say, more specifically, are able to kill me at like level 26. These monsters, I would say, would be like level 10. So I should be able to just kind of mow through them relatively quickly, and they are a pain in the ass. Most of them, just one hit, but you got to get that one hit off, and sometimes they just get that little bit quicker on you, and you take like a few hits before you can even, swing at them. And then when you have 5 of them all attacking you at different times, you could dodge into them and then they swing at you. You could get ready to dodge and they start swinging at you, stunning you for a second. And it gets really stressful really, really fast. And you kind of have to be like, you kind of have to be able to quickly switch gears so that way you can handle the stress without losing your cool or getting overwhelmed. And I think Bloodborne is an excellent game to kind of get that practice in, which you then can use in the real world. For instance, with the 5 enemies, if you can handle taking on 5 enemies with like no healing potions whatsoever, and you are able to just dance around them and dodge them, suddenly having to take on 5 tasks at work, say you work in an office job and you were told that you need to complete the spreadsheets, talk to this customer, and, solve this problem within like the next 20 minutes kind of thing, and each one of those tasks takes up a lot of time, you begin to switch gears, and you can then be like, okay, well, now I got to prioritize, and I got to look at this in a situation. I got to figure out where I can multitask and where I need to devote all of my attention. And then you start looking out for opportunities on ways to handle it even better. So it's like, well, I need to get this report done. The customer that I need to talk to is actually part of the report or whatnot. I can go ahead and work on the report while I'm talking to him because I do need some information from him to add to the report. Cool, multitask there. And then it makes it to where you start thinking about ways that you can handle the problem better. You start to use multiple different methods, such as, trying to batch different aspects of the problem together that are similar, so that way you can take those out at the same time, or break it down into individual parts. You're fighting off 5 enemies. Okay, let's see if we can kind of bottleneck them into a spot where I can basically deal with them one at a time versus all 5 at once. And you can take those methods into other areas, just you got to do some translation effectively, because the monsters in the video game you're fighting against versus, trying to handle 5 complaint calls at once. Very, very different, but, sometimes they can translate well, bottlenecking complaints, you go ahead and you tell them, look, I'm going to take these in the order that they came in, and you do them one at a time, batching them together. Well, these 2 people over here actually are complaining about the same thing, so I can actually just talk to both of them at the same time, and kind of get both of them taken care of, rather than, dealing with the same issue in 2 different or at 2 different points. So things like that. It allows you to practice with kind of managing, the stressful situation, the emergency that's going on. And that is something that I think is useful. And then the last thing, and it's like the most basic thing, it's entirely the premise it's entirely the main mechanic of the game, and that is perseverance. In the game, there is no level spikes. I mean, there are level spikes, but there's no settings. You can't set the game to be on easy mode or hard mode. The game just is. Doesn't matter if you're playing it for the first time or you're playing it through the 50th time. The levels of all the monsters in their specific areas are all going to be exactly the same. They never change. You, however, you level up. You get better. You get stronger, both in the stats of your character. They level up. So mechanically wise, you just genuinely get stronger. You have more hit points. You have more defensive capabilities, so you don't take nearly as much damage, things like that. But you also just get better in your skill. It is entirely possible to beat these games, Souls games and Bloodborne game. It's entirely to beat them without ever leveling up. In fact, it's actually one of the challenges. You can take the waste of skin option, which basically puts you at level 4 versus starting at level 10 like most of the other character origins start with. So you can start off at level 4 and you can play through the entire game without ever leveling up. You already have all the skills unlocked to be able to use like the main weapons. Higher level weapons, it becomes more difficult if you don't level up, because if you don't level up, then you don't have the skill point requisites to be able to use that weapon. But your baseline weapons, the baseline weapons that you can start with, you can use at any time. There's no prerequisites to use them, and you can beat the game using the baseline weapons. It just means you got to swing a lot more and dodge a lot more, because once you get out of like the first area, almost everything one-shots you. But entirely, these are games that are entirely skill-based. It's not, you can't buy your way through it. You can't really cheat it in any way. I mean, you could hack the game, but most of us don't have those capabilities. But you develop your skill in the game and you get better. And like I said, the game's mechanics are entirely based around failure. They literally looked at the game and they said, okay, well, we're going to make this game. It's going to be a very interesting story. And we're going to basically make the mechanics center around the fact that you are going to die a lot. In fact, it is expected that you're going to die. And in some cases, it is preferable that you die, because you can kind of use that as a way to farm blood echoes. You go ahead and you kill one monster, you get 50 blood echoes, and then you die to the next monster. That monster now has the 50 extra blood echoes that you dropped. You kill the first monster again, you kill the second monster again. Well, not only did you get the first 50 blood echoes from the first one, you got the 50 blood echoes from the second monster, and you got the blood echoes that you got from the first time you went through that area, which means you've immediately tripled the amount of blood echoes that you had available to you in 2 turns, or in 2 attempts. So, it really, uses that mechanic so that way it creates more of an incentive to do better. Because if you can get your blood echoes back on the second run, well, then you're even better off than you were the first time. And because it doesn't change a whole lot, every single time you come into the world, every single time you start up a new game, everything's in the exact same place. You can then kind of learn how to better navigate it, and figure out better tactics and whatnot, which is very useful. And this is a representative, or this can be a facsimile to real life. The world does not scale to your level, It sometimes feels like that, but in reality, what you're doing is you're taking on new challenges. When you're in first grade and you're struggling with math, the early multiplication tables and doing, large number addition and subtraction for first graders is very, very difficult. As an adult, it's incredibly easy. It's trivial. I mean, half the stuff you can do in your head now. You don't even need to, pull out the calculator to figure out, 12 times 12, 144, because you've memorized the table. But, well, now you're dealing with more complicated things. You got to figure out tax code percentages, and you have to figure out APR percentages on your credit cards and stuff. And these are things that would be considered impossible to a first grader who's struggling with math. But for you, it's everyday life, trying to manage these numbers and stuff. It feels like it's scaled, it feels like as you went through, it got harder. But literally, if you just stayed at first grade levels doing stuff and whatnot, it would be the same. The same first grade stuff that you learned then is the same difficulty it is now. You just got better. You leveled up. Dealing with the problems in high school, and I think that's probably a better example. The social dynamics, the social politics in a high school, because high school never ends. Dealing with the assignments that you had to do and stuff like that. In high school, it feels like it's, the world's on your shoulders and you're being expected to just take it and run, and you feel completely overwhelmed. And most of that is due to the hormones, but some of it's literally just due to the fact that you're experiencing new things and your limits are being pushed. through your interactions with your friends, through your interactions with your teachers, your interactions with your parents and stuff. The fact that you have this desire to want to be more independent, but you have these overbearing authority figures that are trying to keep you in line because they're also having to adjust to your desire for independence and stuff. So these are all new experiences, and it's the reason why every single teenager thinks that nobody's ever been in the same position that they've been in. Everybody has, but it's so new, and the challenges are coming so fast that it gets a little overwhelming. Playing with Bloodborne, not playing with Bloodborne, that got weird. Playing Bloodborne, and other games like it, even games like Get Over It, where you're this man inside of a cauldron and you have to navigate the world with this pickaxe hammer thing and stuff, and it's just insane. But the whole point of that is it's difficult as all hell. Those types of games are games that challenge you with a world that does not change. You just have to adapt to it. That's all it is. It's just saying, hey, here's a challenge. Have fun. It's not like some other games where as you level up, all the creatures around you level up as well, and they get harder and stuff like that. It's not a game where you don't ever level up and it's only exclusively skill-based. It very much sets you up so that way you have to figure out where the limits are, and then you have to push beyond them. The early level monsters that you fight in Bloodborne, when you first get into Central Yharnam, they are far easier compared to what you fight in the Healing Church or in the Forbidden Forest areas. Each one of those areas, they use different tactics, so you have to adapt to the new tactics because what worked for one monster doesn't work for the other monster. They use different timings, so you have to pay attention to the timing and stuff. Sometimes the attacks that they use don't have interrupts, so you can't use the gun to interrupt it and then do a really, really devastating attack. You have to dodge and swing at them normally, and you do less damage each time. And then the bosses all have different abilities. They have different phases. You have to adapt to the changing scenarios, and this is how real life works. One thing that works in one scenario does not work in the other. Dealing with people, everybody's different. Complimenting one person could, be an in to a very, very good job, but complimenting another person can actually get you fired because, they think that you're after their job or something like that. It's complex, and there's no set rules in the real world, but you get better. You begin to learn. You begin to start seeing the patterns, and you then start taking advantage of it. And then, that being said, it's easy to fall into the trap, especially as an adult, of, okay, well, now I figured this out. I don't want to try to push myself. Now that I've gotten into this job and I know this job, I hate this job, but I know it. I should stick with this job, despite the fact that it doesn't pay. It's not keeping up with, pay raises or anything like that. And, I kind of feel like I'm wasting my life. It's known. It's the devil that I know, and therefore it's the devil that I feel safe with. Well, cool. You've just decided you peaked there and you're never going to do anything, better. Whereas the better option that I think you should go with is, okay, well, now I've mastered this job. Let me see if I can get more responsibility and more challenges. One, to make it more interesting. And two, just to kind of see how far you can push yourself. Something that I did today before recording was I applied to a bunch of different jobs. And one of the jobs I was looking at, I was on the fence about applying to, and it was pest control management. It's the description. This is family owned, so they were a little bit more creative with the application information. But they did say, you're going to be, if you're dealing, or if you're an arachnophobic, which I'm not so arachnophobic that I can't handle spiders. Like seeing them outside and stuff doesn't bother me. That being said, I do not like having spiders on me, and I do perceive them as a threat if I see them in the house. Twice I've had spiders in the vehicle while I was driving, and that is not fun. because you immediately want to just jump out of the vehicle, but on the highway, that's a very bad idea. You have to find a safe place to pull off first. So yeah, I don't handle spiders that well. I don't like things crawling on me, and I don't like going into like crawl spaces and stuff like that. But that being said, I went ahead and applied to that job anyway, because while I initially looked at it and was like, nah, I don't think I want to do that, I actually thought about it for a second. I was like, I might become better if I took this job rather than skipping it and kind of not challenging myself, not going with the challenge. If I took this job, after a little while, I'd get used to it. Suddenly, the idea right now bothers me a lot, but I'm pretty sure that if I took this job after like the 5th time, a spider crawls on me and I panic to, brush it off. Eventually I'd just be like, yeah, it's just a spider. It's nothing to worry about. I don't have to worry about, getting bit, because most of these spiders aren't actually going to, do any damage to me. And if they do, I'll learn the protocols on how to deal with that. It's very similar to how I got used to needles. For one of my jobs, I had to get a lot of blood work done because it was inside a hospital, and they needed to make sure that I had all my vaccination and stuff up to date. And one day I went in to get blood work to see if I had the antibodies to avoid chicken pox. I don't remember what the technical term is, but in the hospital, they have they had a very good cancer ward, but chemotherapy and stuff like that weakens your immune system. So if I brought in chicken pox, even though I could have been, or if I got sick with the chicken pox and I didn't know it, and I came into work and I was just working at a coffee shop inside the hospital, if a doctor or a patient came over to get coffee from me and I passed that on to them, that could kill them. So they needed to make sure that I had my vaccinations up to date. And I was very dehydrated. So every time they tried to draw blood, it didn't get enough. And I got poked 5 times in one sitting. After about the 3rd time, I was like, okay, this is just life now. Beforehand, needles made me very, very nervous. But literally just sitting there for that one session and just kind of willingly taking it, willingly getting poked and stuff, I stopped caring after a while. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't fun. But it became just like, okay, well, this is just how it works. And now I know what to expect, because every single time that I got poked both in the elbow areas, I think once in the wrist, and then in the top of the hand. Because, like I said, I was very dehydrated, so none of my blood vessels were actually, doing what they needed to. Then, next time I went in, I had to get blood work to make sure that I had my tuberculosis shots, I guess. Because the first one didn't actually cover that one. I don't understand why they can't just, take one, or like take 5 blood vials and then, be able to test all of the things that they need to test with just those. But anyway, I had to go in the next day and get that. I made sure I downed like an entire liter of water, like just before going in there. And, I only got poked once, but like I literally didn't react to it. Like it was like, oh, I got pinched. Same thing with the dentist. Dental hygiene has not always been my strongest suit, admittedly. Working on it. But I had a really bad kind of tooth situation. One time I went to the dentist, and I basically got poked in for the Novocaine. I know it's not Novocaine anymore, but that's the colloquial term. I basically got the numbing shots like 6 times sitting in or while they're working on my teeth for like 5 minutes or for like an hour and a half of just sitting there with them working on my teeth and stuff. And I had, trying to get this root canal done, and I had an infection at the time. So that's the reason why it wasn't working. But yeah, I got used to things basically getting stabbed into my jaws and stuff. So like, it doesn't bother me as much. You just get used to it. So yeah, that's kind of digression. Bloodborne helps you with that. You get used to it. You get you get used to the challenge, you get used to the idea of the challenge, and then you can translate that into other areas of your life. Go, I fought this boss in this game. How hard can, dealing with this thing be? So yeah, that's me talking about Bloodborne and how you can use it to, improve your life. You can use it to kind of microdose yourself into scary situations so you can make yourself braver. You can use it to microdose stress, so that way you can learn better ways to handle high stress situations, and be able to navigate the complexity of the world. And you can use it to teach yourself to persevere against the odds, because the way the game literally works is it trains you to just throw yourself at the problem until you finally figure it out. So yeah, that is what I wanted to talk about. This is probably not going to be one of my best episodes, but I needed to get something out. So yeah, in the future, expect more scripted content. I think I'm going to go in that direction, give that a try, see if that improves how my content flows and stuff like that. I don't know what the next episode is going to be about. Like I said, the topics I previously wanted to discuss require a lot more research. And of course, we are mowing outside while I'm recording. Anyway, I thought I timed it right. But yeah, I'm gonna try to do more scripted content. I'm also thinking I'm going to begin putting a bit more emphasis on Rumble. Rumble seems to be kind of where I have the best chance of actually growing and building an audience. Whereas YouTube, these videos, I don't know, like literally nobody's seen. It might just be because I started a new channel for it and whatnot. And then the podcasting thing, it seems to be hit or miss. I'm still going to upload everything everywhere, diversify and whatnot. But if you want, I think I'm going to prioritize Rumble for everything, at least for a little while. So I recommend going to rumble.com, finding my channel, How to Man, for this particular stuff, the How to Man podcast. If you want to see everything that I'm posting on Rumble, you can just follow me at Austin Dworsk on Rumble. Subscribe to How to Man on YouTube, and then of course subscribe to subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite podcasting platforms, and then share this with your friends. I'm genuinely wanting to actually build a community of men who want to improve themselves and get better and go on this journey with me. Everybody's going to be on a different journey. Everybody's going to be figuring out different things, but I genuinely want to have that network because it makes it so much easier when you know that you're surrounded by other people who want the same things as you. And that's just to be better. And I really, really want to help kind of foster that community so that way I can help as many people as possible. So yeah, if you know a friend who's struggling with adversity or is, not entirely feels lost, not sure what to do, send them this podcast. Just knowing that there's other people out there who are, working on these same problems tends to make you feel better. I found another guy on Rumble. His name is Goose and a Gander, I think. Yeah, Goose and a Gander. He's literally doing the same thing, but he's doing it more on a personal side of like what he's doing as kind of like a video diary journal. Just documenting his 60-day challenge and stuff like that. And every day he's live streaming and stuff. And you know what? It made me feel great. And it made me want to start working more on the podcast and talking about these ideas. So, share this with your friends. Like I said, YouTube, Rumble, whatever podcasting platform your friend, likes to use. Just be like, hey, I have this guy, he doesn't seem to know much of what he's talking about, but he's trying to figure it out. And it seems to be in the same area that you're in. Maybe giving him a listen can help spark some ideas and help you out. And it would help me out too. So, anyway, this has been me rambling on for probably the last 10 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Thanks for hanging out, and I will talk to you guys again later. Take care.